Coming up, SpaceX reveals some of its reusability plans.
Antares does a rollout for the April 17th launch date.
Yuri's night is less than a week away.
And Spacevidcast is looking for mountain climbers.
And joining us in studio, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory's Doug Eliison will be here to show us his beautiful, beautiful eyes. Stay tuned. Season 6, Episode 10 of Spacevidcast starts right now. An all-new version of YouTube streaming, for those of you who are watching live, gets you access to 1080p high-definition Spacevidcast Live.
Oh, so
welcome to the show. My name is... I know, right? Me too. Welcome to the show. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham will be your shows for this evening.
We will be. We're going to be your show.
This is going to be an interesting show, especially when we bring... Doug on. All right, let's go ahead and get started. SpaceX, in late March, had an audio teleconference with Gwen and Elon and a bunch of other people, Charlie Bolden. But in that conference, Elon talked about some of the reusability plans for 2013 and 2014. So we grabbed that audio conference, took it, kind of condensed it down for you, and gave you some of the juicy bits. So here you go. To have a listen.
Yeah, we are currently scheduled to launch late this fall with CRS-3. There's a number of upgrades to that particular Dragon configuration, which is going to give NASA even more of the critical types of cargo that they're looking to both bring up and bring back.
It's actually also worth noting that it will be with the new version of Falcon 9, which is some fairly significant upgrades on the vehicle side. That's both to improve performance and to improve reliability. So it's capable of actually really maximizing the payload of Dragon. So we can, as much as you can basically pack in Dragon, we can send up. So it could potentially raise the useful payload of Dragon by several tons. And then this is also the version of Falcon 9 where we will attempt to recover the first stage. Although, as I've said before, I think it's going to take us several flights before we are successful in that. So I'm not sure it'll be this flight where we are successful, but that is our aspiration, and that is one of the key design goals of the new version of Falcon 9. With respect to the recovery, the initial recovery attempts will be from a water landing, so that the first stage booster will, after separation, the first stage will continue in a ballistic arc and execute a velocity reduction burn before hitting the atmosphere, just to lessen the impact, and then right before sort of splashdown of the stage, it's going to light the engine again. So there'll be two burns after stage separation if things go well. But I really want to emphasize that we don't expect success in the first several attempts, and then hopefully next year with a lot more experience and data, we should be able to return the first stage to the launch site, deploy the landing legs, and do a propulsive landing on land back at the launch site. So this year it's about just hopefully recovering the first stage at all from an ocean landing, and then next year it'll be the boost back return to launch site with the landing gear deployed. That's our aspiration.
So the really cool thing about all of this is that if SpaceX is successful in this, and keep in mind, Elon was very clear that they're not going to be successful at first. They expect that it's going to take a little while to figure this stuff out. But if they're successful in making a fully reusable launch vehicle, not a refurbishable launch vehicle, but a reusable launch vehicle, that could radically decrease the price of going to space. Right now, it's like fueling up a 747, going across half of the world, landing, taking the 747, and dumping it in the ocean when you're done. Every single time you want to go somewhere.
Isn't that what Lost did?
That is what Lost did, absolutely,
great.
yeah.
Just checking.
Oceanic Air, I believe.
Yes.
So that would be very, very expensive. Air travel would cost you millions of dollars per seat to go every single time. That's how space is right now. Every time you launch a rocket, you take it, you dump it in the ocean, and you got to go build a whole new rocket. All of the new engines, all the new avionics, all of it. So if we can actually reuse it, that would be awesome. Now, some people would point at the space shuttle and say, hey, we had the space shuttle, it was a reusable launch vehicle. It was actually a refurbishable launch vehicle. So when the space shuttle would land, you've already lost the external tank. It's gone forever. It fell into the ocean.
Right.
The solid rocket boosters had to come back. They have to be basically scraped down. You got to get all salt water off of it and refurbish those. The space shuttle main engines were basically torn apart completely and then put back together completely between each flight. So that's not reusable. I mean, imagine, again, using my 747 analogy, imagine flying across half the world, landing, then having them rip the engines off your 747, taking the entire engine apart, rebuilding it all back together, then trying to fly. Man, that would still be god-awful expensive. And it was, right? The space shuttle was very expensive. So that is what SpaceX is working on, and we could start to have them do some of this stuff as early as this year, which is what Elon was talking about. You're trying to propulsively land in the ocean, right?
Right.
Kind of doing the grasshopper tests, but over an ocean bed. So I thought that was really, really exciting.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting.
And speaking of new space companies, Orbital Sciences Antares is looking to actually launch at this point.
Yay! So there was a rollout from Orbital to the launch pad. So supposed to be supposed to be launching April 16th, which is coming up really quickly here, and that's very exciting. And Orbital Sciences, as you remember, is also bringing cargo to the International Space Station. It's not just SpaceX. There is more than one game in town, if you will. And so they had their rollout to the launch pad, which is always very exciting in the slowest way possible.
It takes so long. It's so painfully slow.
Yeah, if that makes any sense.
The video highlights this perfectly. It's like, you can walk backwards faster than the rocket. You can walk backwards faster than the rocket.
Oh, you can. But always, such an interesting sight all the way around. This is just, it's really exciting. Again, in the slowest way possible, but that this is going on, that America can now Supply. Thank you. The International Space Station, again, with more than one launch provider there. So I think that's just really cool.
This first mission is going to be a demo mission, just like what SpaceX had to do. They're not actually bringing anything to the International Space Station, kind of a dummy payload. And then moving beyond that, there's a possibility that they'll also do a combined mission, just like SpaceX did, and be able to bring their spacecraft to the space station. So more people competing is better. It lowers prices all the way around, and it forces the companies to innovate. So this is a really cool and exciting time, and it proves that SpaceX isn't just a fluke.
Darn shooting.
Moving right along, I just want to touch on it really quick. There was a story in Aviation Week, which we got to through Huffington Post, which is the new space launch system. We could potentially be using one of the upper stages or fuel tanks, much like we did with the old Saturn V, as a new Skylab. Here, take a peek. So Skylab, which was a floating space station, our first floating space station, was basically that you see the square on the left-hand side. That was what Skylab was. So it was the upper stage of that Saturn V rocket. Skylab 2, which they're proposing, would be even larger. It would be the upper stage of a Space Launch System, or SLS rocket. We've also got a picture, I think, that kind of shows the mock-up.
Can I say just really quickly how it's sort of ironic that the picture on the left is the actual launch picture, and the picture on the right doesn't look like it's launching anywhere?
A little ironic, I suppose.
Anyway, sorry. Go on.
We also have a shot of the, what I'm trying to say, the actual, Tim, yeah.
There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's the actual, what it would kind of look like. You've got Orion in the background, and then you've actually got Skylab kind of in the middle, and then there's one last picture which I think shows a size comparison of the tank and how big Skylab was. So I thought that was an interesting story, just kind of, again, really quickly touching on it, the idea of bringing back a Skylab type thing. Very different than the way that the International Space Station, which was built, which was piece by piece by piece, and actually there was a size comparison on that chart, showed you how small those pieces are. Whereas Skylab, you just haul the whole thing up all at once. But there's another company, Bigelow Aerospace, that's an interesting contender. who could inflate a space station up in space. So pretty cool stuff there.
As long as we get John Coart to do the Skylab videos again, I'm okay with that. No problem.
Yuri's Night is less than a week away, April 12th, 2013.
Yes, April 12th every single year since 1961. April 12th, 1961, of course, was the date that Yuri Gagarin was first propelled off of this planet, the first human to do so. April 12th, 1981, 20 years later, was the very first space shuttle launch right here in America, which is super awesome. So that's very cool. And then April 12th, 2001 was the very first Yuri's Night party.
Whoa! They all start in one, ends in ones.
I know!
Yuri's Night is a global celebration of humanity in space. So it's not just the astronauts that make it into space, because it takes a team of people. It's the engineers behind the rockets and the spaceships. It's the artists who get other people inspired. It's the marketing people. It's the Spacevidcasts of the world. It's the everyone involved in getting humans into the cosmos.
Which means you.
Which means anyone watching this show would be welcome at a Yuri's Night party. And there are Yuri's Night parties all around the planet. In fact, there are Yuri's Night parties off the planet. On the International Space Station, they're in Second Life, they're all over the place. You can head over to yurisnight.net, find the party nearest you, and if you happen to be in some place where there isn't a party near you, which would be hard to do, there are over 255 parties at this point.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of parties.
We're closing in on 300, I think. It's really exciting.
There are a ton of parties, but if there isn't one near you, you can actually start your own party. It doesn't cost you anything to start a party. Just grab a group of people, get together, maybe watch some space-based movies. Apollo 13 would be a good one, I think. Just start nerding out about space and get other people excited about space
It also helps that this year it's on a Friday night. So really, nobody has any excuses. There are parties in kindergartens. There are parties in World of Warcraft. So if you fall into any category, either those two or anything in between, you don't have an excuse. You really should be having a Yuri's Night party.
Now, before we go to break, I did want to give you guys a quick tease, which, when you combine those two words, is queek.
It is now.
A quick look at a new advertising campaign. We had been talking about a while, in a couple shows ago, that we wanted to create posters that you could download and paste around town to get people excited about space. And we wanted to create a series of these posters. Well, this isn't done, well, it's pretty much not done yet, but this is one of the posters that we're working on. This is the mountain climbing series for Mars, and the title of this work is Climbers Wanted. It might be somewhat hard to see in the webcast itself, and that's okay. We're going to release this on April 20th. If you're going to the Yuri's Night LA party, we'll actually have a printout of this poster available. We're also going to make the printouts available on April 12th if you're willing to pay for it. So the way this is going to work is, if you want to print it out yourself on your own home printer and use your own inkjet, totally free. Just download the artwork, print it out, have fun. But if you want a really high quality print, or a higher quality print that you can put maybe in a frame, or have in your home, you can buy different qualities off of an online store from the artist himself.
And I can say, these are beautiful.
Yep.
Like, gorgeous. It's not just a bunch of red with some black shading on it. Like, it is very detailed, and great information about Olympus Mons, that was this particular mountain, and how it compares, and all of these different things. It's gorgeous. It's
designed to look like a movie poster. This entire series is going to kind of have a similar look and feel.
Yep.
This is an interesting show. Similar look and feel.
Which is great, because then you can get the whole series.
And then we're also going to have other artists working on other looks and feels, so that if that doesn't quite fit your style guides, maybe we'll find something that does. The entire intention is that you don't have to pay if you don't want to, but you can help get other people excited about space and the cosmos by plastering them all over town, or even in your own home, or whatever you want to do. So on that note, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have Doug Eliison on, and we'll actually take a look at eyes on the solar system. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination, and nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving, through the heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's
Welcome back. Doug Eliison is joining us from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and you are, what is your official role?
I'm a visualization producer.
A VIP Pro.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And what does that entail?
Is that what we do?
Well,
okay.
So I work in a group of about 10 strong. We're called Visualization Technology Applications and Development. I'm kind of the middleman. So I help our art director and his junior get the reference material to make models of spacecraft, do a little bit of hands-on animation myself, work with the programmers to source trajectories and things like that, bring the whole thing together, kind of like the group's Wikipedia on legs, that sort of thing. And our output is mainly real-time interactive graphics, but also a lot of rendered animations as well that explain what JPL gets up to.
so speaking of rendered animations, Curiosity
Yes.
landed on Mars not that long ago. You had the insane, crazy sky crane system with that. When you're trying to describe it to someone, they're like,
They go,
I can't,
really?
I don't.
Yeah.
How does
That's
that?
Why,
Yeah, exactly.
So I was the technical director for that animation, which then became the 7 minutes of Terra video that's done so well.
Also, Phoenix's 7 Minutes of Terror.
Yes, and Spirit and Opportunities, I think 8 minutes of terror, and then Insight maybe have like 7.5 minutes.
I see a general theme.
Intrigue.
See a general theme.
It never gets easier. Mars is always going to be hard.
So you'd also mentioned live real-time graphics.
Yes.
So what is that?
Well, that's a suite of projects we've done. It started quite a few years ago, actually, when we did a little project for Cassini, which is still orbiting Saturn today, called the Cassini Saturn Interactive Explorer. It was basically in your browser you could see Cassini in 3D and watch it going around Saturn and see where, what it was looking at and so on and so forth. The people at JPL thought, that's pretty cool, can you do the Earth with some Earth science stuff? And so we did an Eyes on the Earth that looks at Earth sciences and real-time climate data. And I went, that's great, now I'm going to do the whole solar system. And then we started from scratch with that, and we made a tool called Eyes on the Solar System, and that has new spin-offs, a new version of Eyes on the Earth, and a tool called Eyes on Exoplanets. They're all now live for the public to use completely for free at home, so they can see what the spacecraft they paid for are actually getting up to.
So this is an application that end users, for realsies people, not
Yes.
NASA geeks, can actually get to.
Yeah, it's completely free. You need to have Java installed, and you need a browser. So Chrome on a Mac won't do it, but just about Safari, Firefox, or anything else on a PC. And once you've got Java installed, it'll download this tool for you, and you can use everything I show you here. You can do right at home.
Well, so show us Eyes on the Solar System.
Okay,
and
so
what you can do.
As you can see, what I'm looking at, if any of you have used Google, everyone's used Google Earth. We start where Google Earth finishes, and we go in the other direction.
All right.
Okay. And so you can zoom in and out just like with Google Earth, but anything with a label on it is fair game. So
Let's go ahead and go to his screen if you can.
go to my
There you
screen.
go.
There you go. So we're having a little look around here. This is what the solar system looks like right now. You can see the date and time at the bottom. And let's go and look at Voyager 1. Why not? And so you double click, we take you through several billion miles of interplanetary space, and now we're on board Voyager 1. That's its current location. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if you look closely in the background, actually, you can see that you can see Orion in the distance there. These are real constellations. It's not just a generic star map in the background. It's actually a real 3D set of stars, several thousand stars. We can go and look at little Pioneer 10. We don't even hear from this portable spacecraft anymore, but there it is, looking back on the solar system, spinning its way through space, cartwheeling its way.
And how many objects in the solar system do you have now?
So we have, obviously, planets, moons. We have quite a few asteroids and comets. Let's just turn some on for fun. We don't have kind of all 500,000.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah, there's kind of two sets of comets and asteroids in here. One is kind of the asteroids that are famous for some reason. Ones that have been visited by a spacecraft or people have heard of or are going to be visited. And then there's a library of a couple of dozen that are considered potentially accessible via people at some point in the future.
Right.
And then a bunch of comets as well. And the comets they're all in there for a reason. For example, Hartley 2, we did a flyby of that a couple of years ago. Churyumov-Gerasimenko, easy for me to say. That's where Rosetta's going to go next year. And we can knock those back. Let's make it a little bit quieter. It gets people scared when they see the solar system that busy. They can just see some of the comets. We've added Comet Eliison. There it is, screaming in towards the inner solar system right now. Could be huge later this year. It could be absolutely enormous. And we're about to add the comet that's 2013 A1, the one that may well hit. So we'll get fairly close to Mars, 100,000 kilometers to Mars in a year or so's time. And so that's just the objects, but it's the stories these spacecraft can tell us. And of course, this is what the solar system looks like right now, but it's like a TiVo. We can run the solar system backwards, and now we're looking at August 2005. And so spacecraft that are now long since dead are happily exploring away. Here's Ulysses that's been dead for several years, little Stardust spacecraft. We retired back in 2011. And so if we have this ability to go backwards and forwards in time and ride on board these spacecraft, and that means we can actually go and recreate things these spacecraft have done, or see things they're going to go and do in the future. So I'll give you one fairly simple example. That's the interesting stuff can be tricky to find, so we bookmark it in this bottom corner for people. But go to outer planet missions and take a look at Cassini. This is the day Cassini arrived at Saturn, which was June 2004. So we wind the clock back. We take you to Cassini. Here's Saturn right behind us. You can see the speed down here. We're doing 25,000 miles an hour and falling towards Saturn. But because there's 250,000 miles to go, it looks like nothing's moving. So we can time lapse it a little bit. Let's go to 10 minutes a second or so, 8 minutes a second. There we go. 6 minutes.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could do that in real life with actual spacecraft?
Fast forward.
Yeah, fast forward.
Fast
Yeah,
forward.
exactly.
This is so Doctor Who right now.
Launch a spacecraft, fast forward.
Ta-da!
Now, this is all reconstructed engineering data. This is real data from the spacecraft. So the real spacecraft turned around, pointed its antenna forward to protect itself from the debris right at the edge of Saturn's rings. Kind of like holding a newspaper over your head when it's raining. Fires its main engine for 90 minutes to slow itself down into orbit around Saturn. And then you'll see it turn back around again and do the same thing on the way out of Saturn as well. So this is all reconstructed engineering telemetry. And a lot of this telemetry is actually available online. If people Google for a thing called NAIF, N-A-I-F, it's kind of loads of trajectory data, pointing data, loads of ancillary information about what the spacecraft get up to. And what this tool really is giving the layperson a chance to kind of look at what that data does and see what their spacecraft are getting up to. Now, this is, seven odd years ago. The most popular thing we've done, obviously, was the landing of Curiosity. We had something like 1 million people using this over a single weekend.
We were, actually. If you were watching our live feed, we took eyes and we actually cut it into different segments and displayed that information up on the screen.
Now, the surprising thing is some people thought it was actually kind of real-time telemetry from the spacecraft. Now, we got some real-time telemetry that we did use on another tool done by a different group at JPL, but the rate of data meant that you were getting kind of one update every couple of seconds if you were lucky. So occasionally you'd see that feed and the vehicle would kind of hang for a bit, and then something would go clunk, 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 as the data came through all the pipelines. What we got was a predicted trajectory from the navigation team that was given to us 3 weeks before landing.
Okay.
And the reconstruction effort is still ongoing, and once the reconstruction effort is complete, then we will repopulate this with what actually occurred.
So you're going to take the actual telemetry,
yes, the real telemetry,
and plug it into eyes publicly.
Everything Curiosity actually did will be right in here.
That's cool.
But it turns out the predict, because Isaac Newton did quite a lot of the driving and he's pretty reliable, we were off by 0.6 seconds from 3 weeks out. That was pretty incredible. Now we worked on the rendered animation of Curiosity for ages and ages and ages. It took 9 months to produce that animation, but there were little details we didn't know about. The animation had to be finished before the real spacecraft had to be finished, so there were changes to the design, things like that. But you can see really subtle things that we just didn't know about when we made the animation. You see the spacecraft here, it's straightening up, it's throwing out ballast to straighten the vehicle up before it throws out its parachute. And if you take a little backwards, you see the parachute come out in just a second. And unlike the animation, we can actually land in Gale Crater. We didn't know what the landing site was when we finished the animation.
Yes.
And we couldn't choose one of the candidates because that would have been favoritism, right?
Right.
So now, here's Gale Crater, this is Mount Sharp up here, this is the canyon we're going to go and drive up towards, and the landing site's right down there. We land about 0.6 seconds off and something like about 1.5 kilometers south of the real landing site. It was pretty close. It's not too shabby. And of course, here comes the really scary bit that everyone loves.
The sky crane system.
That's the great thing. If we don't like it, we can stop it. We can go and have a look around. We can zoom in and zoom out. If you live in the 1970s, you can have it in 3D, like animated 3D. Right?
Yeah.
And we could go back and look at the back shell because it's interesting. Why not? Let's go back down, look at the vehicle. Hit play and watch it tumble away towards the ground from where we are. Catch up with it again. This little banking turn banked right over to get away from the parachute, because otherwise it would have just slammed back into it. But all this was actually this trajectory was generated by the whole system testbed. The test rover we have at JPL spent months and months and months essentially dreaming of landing on Mars. We'd feed it fake Mars entry. It would do what it needed to do and spit out fake trajectories back to us.
Wow.
And that's one of these runs.
This is really fun and cool to play with, and I think it's one of those neat tools that when you've got someone who's kind of sort of getting into space, specifically with Curiosity, I think it's a really good one to kind of show them like, this is what we did on an alien planet, without any human interaction, right? The radio signals took what was.
We can find out for you. We can go from Mars. Let's leave MSL EDL. We'll go back to the present day. We can actually say, well, how far is it from Mars to Earth right now? For those of you wondering why we don't speak to Curiosity and Mars Odyssey and MRO for a few weeks, is because you see that line, it goes almost straight through the sun right now, which is solar conjunction. Right now, that one-way light time is 20 minutes. Back last August, it was, let's have a little look, it's about 13 minutes or so.
13 minutes. So it took 13 minutes for radio signals which work at the speed of light.
Yes.
To reach from Mars to Earth. So there's no possible way we could command it because the entry, descent, and landing, which is EDL,
7 minutes.
was 7 minutes.
This is what the 7 minutes of terror video makes, and the beautiful point Adam Stelzner says. You know, at the moment we heard the very first signal from the spacecraft that it was beginning to hit the top of the atmosphere and feeling that drag. Because it takes so long for that signal to go back to the Earth, the spacecraft had actually been on the ground, dead or alive, for at least 7 minutes, and we had no idea. It was, you know, you see all these people in a mission control situation. They've been flying that spacecraft for 9 months through space, but they are nothing but very, very impassioned, passive observers. There's nothing we can do. You just have to watch, and basically it's waiting to get your term paper back. Did you pass or did you fail? And there's nothing you can do.
What's the next really cool thing you guys are doing in EYES?
So what we're actually doing is ripping up and starting again. So we realized that...
We were like, we don't like it, throw it all away and try it again.
Yeah. So what we've learned, especially during the landing, if you look closely, you'll see there's like a little patch of Mars that sometimes gets in the way a bit. We, for the programming-minded of you, this is a single precision weld, and we needed a double precision weld to have the accuracy of a vehicle landing on a planet. And we also did another tool called Eyes on Exoplanets that's got 800 planets around other stars that you can go and look at. And both of those have kind of broken the environment that we designed this tool in. We used Unity. It's great for first-person shooters. It's not great for this. And so we are starting with a completely new architecture from the ground up. The architecture behind this we called Explorer, after Explorer 1. The new architecture we're going to call Ranger, after kind of the second generation of spacecraft out of JPL. Lots of interesting things. One is going to be completely open source.
Cool.
And we would love to see people using that code. The second is that it's going to be very, very modular. So we're going to try and design it in such a way whereby, in an ideal world, people at JPL, outside of our group, would pick up that code, have fun with it for actual mission planning, mission visualization, reconstruction, and so on and so forth. And if that happens at JPL or even at other NASA centers, suddenly we've got a library of kind of really impassioned people using this tool, and it becomes this library of assets. What we would then become is just a group that makes it full of interesting stuff for the general public. We'd pull in terrain data, we'd pull in the real telemetry from Curiosity. Now it's on the ground. When the arm moves, you'd see it in here. When it drives, when the mast turns around, things like that, they'd all be in here. We just can't quite do that with the engine we have now, which is why we're starting again with our whole new tool. And look for kind of the first real project out of that to come out towards the end of this year, kind of August, September, maybe a little bit later.
So nerdy tech geek question?
Yeah.
Is it still going to require Java?
No.
Aha!
Originally we actually used the Unity browser plugin, and that was kind of nasty. We realized that if you go to Mars and turn on like the high def mode in here, you're downloading 40 meg of textures, something like that. And you don't have to do that every time. So the reason we went with the Java thing was so that we could still launch it from your browser. And Java would say, okay, you've got a Mac, you need this binary, here you go. Oh, you want the Mars texture? You've already got it, it's over here, and hand it to you. We're kind of caching content, which gives you a massive improvement in performance. What we're going to do instead with the new generation is basically just have you download the binary, you run it, and then it does everything from there. You know, it manages the downloads for you. It's always entertaining. We've apparently been chasing kind of the flavor of the week between kind of Unity, Flash, Java, Microsoft, Apple. We're kind of chasing that kind of what works and what doesn't for everyone's machines, and it's always very, very hard work. But hopefully, with the new engine, we'll get rid of it.
So mentioning that, you know, one easy way to get other space geeks excited about stuff is to show them on your portable device,
on your,
like
your
an
mobile
iPad.
device. That is one on our list of requirements for the new engine. Is so it's so lightweight that we can then say, let's do Eyes on the Solar System on an iPad, or an education-themed module for Eyes on the Solar System just for iPads. So you can give it to school kids and say, hey kid, this is how the phases of the moon work. This is how seasons work. This is, you know, it suddenly becomes a very, very powerful learning tool as well.
That sounds
definitely on our to-do list.
Sounds really freaking cool, actually.
Yeah,
I'm super excited for that.
It's a lot of fun.
So where can users go to grab the current version of Eyes on the Solar System, which is totally free, right? It's
completely free. Eyes.nasa.gov.
That's pretty easy.
I'll put it right on the screen right there.
Eyes.nasa.gov.
And if you want to use Eyes on the Earth, just put Earth on the end of that. If you want to use Eyes on Exoplanets, use Exoplanets on the end of that, and they'll all work.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Douglas, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, viewer comments from last week's show. Stay with us.
So here's a common question. Can you cry in space? Do tears work? Well, let's try it out. I can't cry on command, but I'm going to take some water, drinking water, put it in my eye just as if I was crying. Let's see what happens. Get myself nice and stable for you here. Here we go. So, just as if I've started crying, my eye is full of tears. But you can see it just forms a ball on my eye. In fact, I can put more water in. And so if you keep crying, you just end up with a bigger and bigger ball of water in your eye. Until eventually it crosses across your nose and gets into your other eye, or evaporates, or maybe spreads over your cheek, or you grab a towel and dry it up. So yes, I've gotten things in my eye. Your eyes will definitely cry in space, but the big difference is tears don't fall. So grab a hanky.
And welcome back. You said it looked like he got slimed?
It did. I looked down. I apparently did not watch this video before you put it into the show. And so I looked down, and Hatfield's face is just like...
Whoops. All right. How about some comments from last week's show? All right, this comes from eSkits409. I hope I said that correctly. I'm just saying, why are we going to launch directly at it? What if something goes wrong? Oh, wait, that's not the right one. That's not the comment at all. Dada's like, what's going on?
Well,
there we go.
One of the comments, no?
Yeah, no, it's just part of this show being a little bit off kilter.
Okay.
All right, this is from Dutch Universe.
All right.
It says, why don't they just paint the Dragon capsule black?
There you go.
They must have the technology by now to detect the spacecraft without physically seeing it, because the capsule looks so dirty when it comes back. The idea being they do paint the spacecraft white, which allows you to physically see it a little bit easier, but it sure would look cooler black. Actually, I think it would look cooler black, but it's a lot more than just visibility. The reason it's painted white is actually one of the big reasons is thermal. A black object is going to absorb all of the sunlight. It's going to get very, very warm. Mm-hmm. A white object will reflect a lot of that and get far less warm. It's still going to get warm.
As with anything, chicks dig scars, right? I think battle scars are awesome. And as such, when you see the capsule and you see that scorching and that scarring, essentially, on the capsule, it just makes it so much more real. Yeah. I think it looks really cool. I mean, a nice, bright, shiny, pretty one, regardless of color, is cool in and of itself. But just, I don't know, there's something about like, yeah, that thing went through hell and back, man. and it lived, it survived, and I kind of like it.
If you ever have a chance to visit SpaceX and actually take a tour of SpaceX, hanging right in front of Mission Control, in between Mission Control and the kitchen, is the first demonstration Dragon, and it is still scorched, right? I mean, they didn't do anything to it. They just kind of hung it up. And so you can see the entire heat shield has been blackened and the black scorch marks that go up the back. And I totally agree. I think it looks kind of cool.
Man.
Yeah, it does. So anyhow, but even outside of that, the technical reason is you don't want the vehicle to get hot. All right. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get hot.
Whatever, hot.
Stephen Fiddler says, thinking of the comet that is headed towards Mars next year, I'm not sure if I want to see it hit or not. I think it'd be great scientific knowledge that we can learn from it. In some ways, I'd love to see the impact on the planet. I think about how to expect the space programs, either private or government, it would impact to slow down the progression we've been seeing in recent years. Could it be a good thing or a bad thing when it hits Mars? Actually, that's a good point. I don't know. If it does, in fact, hit Mars, that could be potentially bad for any of the Martian solar-based vehicles. Not necessarily Curiosity, but anything that has photovoltaics, that's absorbing sunlight. Probably not very good. That's a lot of dollars in rovers.
But yeah, there is that interesting mentality, right? Of like, how many of us go to movies like Armageddon or 2012 or, anything like that, and you go, yeah, and it blew up and it looked so cool. And you kind of want to see something on that grand of a scale in real life. And then you start going, yeah, but that could really screw up some things, couldn't it?
But here's the thing, and it's especially appropriate that we got the JPL Viz guy sitting back there. You're not going to see it.
What?
There's not going to be a camera that's going to show you this epic impact like in the movies.
Just like L-Cross. I'm going to see...
In fact, it will be just like L-Cross. Yes, exactly. It's going to be like, did you see that pixel? You see that pixel? That was it. So, yeah, you're not going to see it. So you want that kind of cool, epic, oh my God, this happened?
Right.
But you are not going to get visualization of that.
Although at the same time, I mean, the joke that's been going around the internet is, oh, that asteroid hit. how's that space program coming?
Yeah.
You know, and would that kickstart something? Or you're right, maybe it would just shut everything down and everyone would go, there's nothing we can do anyway. We're all going to die here. You know, who knows?
A little overly dramatic.
Well, I do what I can.
This is from Fave Songs List. I think that's how you pronounce that.
I'm going to go with that.
Carrie-Ann and Benjamin Higginbotham are great partners. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'm just going to end the comment there.
Aw.
I wish my wife was interested apart from watching Star Trek together, but we did both see and experience a space shuttle takeoff with NASA past my wife got. It was an awesome science of the launch, and then the shockwave hitting the stomach. Keep up the good work, guys. You know, I think everyone deep down somewhere is interested in the cosmos, especially as children. And then we kind of grow up and we forget our love of the cosmos. That certainly happened to me. And then I was doing research on the space shuttle and it kind of reignited that flame. That's why we have Spacevidcast, is because I wanted to reignite that flame in as many people as possible, because I do think it's important.
And if I may say, I didn't want to talk about space. I patently told Ben, if you do this, you have to do it alone. And when he
And
did
I
it,
did.
when he did it alone, I
did.
said, okay, you're right. You're terrible.
I was.
You need me clearly to make this better. So I will do this with you on the condition that when we have nothing else to talk about
In like a month.
in space, yeah, I gave it a month. I thought I was being generous with a month, by the way. When we have nothing else to discuss with space, we will stop the shenanigans. We will stop the podcast and we'll do something. We'll talk about something real and long lasting, like the television show Lost. And that's honest to God, I will say that we shook hands. And in Minnesota, that is a binding contract. So it's been 6 years now. I've converted. I am a space geek. I don't know everything about everything. Everyone here knows that I have said some really awesome things about coffee tables. But I've converted. I will say that there is a niche. There is a place for everyone. There's a place for everyone in space. New tagline, apparently. But it is all encompassing. Whether you prefer the cosmos, you prefer the planets, you prefer the robotics, you prefer the human part of it, whatever it is, there's some area of interest that can touch everyone.
And her area of interest may be different than your area of interest, right? So there is
Totally.
something that in the cosmos that will speak to her, and maybe you just haven't found it yet. So don't force your area of interest down her throat. Not that you are, but maybe try to find that thing that really gets her excited. Maybe it's art. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's propulsion. Maybe it's dealing with atmospheric problems, spacesuits.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
space weather is
Space
fun.
weather is pretty cool.
And
actually, something that hasn't been brought up a whole lot, cooking in space.
There you go. That's terribly interesting. Knitting in space. So once we get onto these other planets, how are we going to pass the time besides like, okay, I have to go out and I have to farm again? That's, there's so many different areas to think about of us duplicating our entire existence on another planet. There's going to be something that everyone is going to be interested in.
This next comment comes from TAS1701. I think that's a Star Trek reference.
We'll go with that.
Let me get this straight. Those guys stole the We Are Explorers video from real NASA, and now we're trying to get a Kickstarter campaign going. This is like saying, give me $30,000, here's a Spacevidcast episode to get you excited. This has scam written all over it. It's a little bit different than that. This is in reference to last week we did a news story about how there's the We Are Explorers video from NASA. There's a Kickstarter campaign to put it in movies prior to Star Trek first airing. So you'll have a NASA commercial in front of Star Trek.
Right. And it's not, just to be clear, it wasn't NASA who made the video.
I thought it was NASA who made the video.
All right,
the
you
original,
keep going. I'm going to keep going.
The original video was indeed made by NASA.
Sorry,
and that's what's different. This video is a NASA video. So real NASA can make a video of NASA stuff, but at the end of the day, all the content is from NASA, and this particular video made by NASA, and these guys, what they're going to do is they're going to cut the NASA video down to 30 seconds so that it's actually airable, and then broadcast it on behalf of NASA. So let me be clear. If someone wants to take a Spacevidcast episode or some promotional thing that we've done, cut it down to 30 seconds, run a Kickstarter campaign to put it in movie theaters on our behalf, you have absolutely my permission to do that. It is the best idea ever. I love that idea. And that's the exact same concept behind the real, not the real NASA, the NASA-based video.
Right.
Which is, NASA made this video. They need to just slice it down, put it in front of people to get them excited. So I think it's actually a really cool thing.
And also, we are not the ones doing that either. Just in case, I've just figured all-encompassing for that particular
Oh, no, we're not doing it all.
We're not doing it either. We're just talking about it.
No, but you can do it for us.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
There you
all
go.
right.
Okay.
This comes from Teary Eyes Anderson, which, by the way, your tears won't work in space, just so you know.
Yeah, as we learned.
YouTube has a 3D feature that changes your 2D video into 3D as an option to watch. It'd be great to see 2 minutes and 30 seconds of last week's show in 3 dimensions. Great show. So we did, in fact, convert that show to 3D, and it doesn't work. I mean, the 3D works, but unless you actually have its source as 3D and it can understand the movement of the spacecraft, the 3D algorithm just doesn't understand what's going on, and it doesn't realize that it's moving that far away.
Not to mention, you don't really want to get that close to the two of us.
I suppose. We actually do convert most of our episodes to 3D, but due to the length of the episode and the quality of the episode, YouTube typically chokes on them and never actually releases the 3D. For whatever reason, last week's show worked, so you have last week's show in 3D if you'd like to watch it there. It's faux 3D. It's like 2.5D, but Well, I don't know what to call it. It's not real 3D. And our final comment from last week comes from Stickmatic Raven. Says, probably one of the best shows I've seen given the topics. Keep it up, yo.
Given the topic.
Given the topic. Come
Apparently
on, man.
the topic was crap.
What's
going on?
What's going on, man? Given the topics.
We talk about a brand new piston engine from X-Core, and apparently that's not schmancy
Given
enough.
the topics. Yeah, all right.
Right?
On that note.
We can never win.
Yeah, no, we can't.
Oh,
Given
well.
the topics,
Goodness.
all of humanity, the existence of life, awesome,
whatever,
big, huge rockets and things going on. Given the topics. On that note, we're gonna head into After Dark. It's gonna be a slightly shorter After Dark because we do actually need to leave town like right now. But Doug's gonna stay with us, and we'll answer some of your questions that you had during the show right here in After Dark. If you would like to watch After Dark on demand, you can do so by buying Spacevidcast Epic. Epic is what helps us pay for this show. You can get more information at spacevidcast.com/epic. It starts at $10 a month or $100 a year. And not only do you get the Spacevidcast After Dark episodes, you also get things like the extended AIAA meetings. We just finished editing and compressing the latest AIAA meeting, so you probably see that this week or maybe next week because we're out of town. And you get a bunch of other, about 40 gigabytes worth of exclusive content only available to Spacevidcast Epic subscribers. Your subscription gets you access to great content, and it helps us continue to produce awesome spacey videos, given the topic. On that note, I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching. Stay with us. After Dark's up next.
And I will answer the Android question straight away.